welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE. I have a very special guest. I actually got to meet this gentleman at Podfest this past May. Him and his beautiful wife, Leah. And me and Poppy had a great time hanging out with them. It was a great experience. It was just a wonderful time. He's a coach. He's a mentor. He's just an all around amazing dude, man. I love the fact that he's an accomplished musician. He's killing it, man. He's a fellow podcaster with his show, the God and Gigs Show. Welcome to the show, Alan C. Paul. What's going on, man?
Brother, it's great to be with you. Great to be on the show, man. It's like a family reunion. Already. So I'm looking forward to talking with and chatting up with you, brother.
Oh man, I've been looking forward to this, man. Since we connected it at Podfest, I've been looking forward to being able to sit down with you and talk to you because you're doing some amazing stuff, brother. Man, you are killing out right now. I'm always looking at your content. You're always posting some new stuff, man. You just I love the messages that you share.
Thank you, man. I'm. It's all reality. Like we're living this life, right? We're living and we're dealing with things day to day. We're coming as we're recording to the end of 2022. I mean, this has been a rough year for some people. For other people, it's been highs and lows for everybody. So I think,
Yeah.
in my space, it's the same. Again, we're all people, and so I talk about what's happening in my life, and it ends up happening in your life and other people, my field and music world, and it's just like I said, I don't think we have to invent content. We live it, and then we talk about it, and we like try to share what's really going on. I think that's when it's authentic. So I'm glad it's helping you, and I'm glad it's helping some other people.
Oh no, it's being able to create this content, especially content that where we're providing the service to people, where we're helping people at by putting out the positive content that we put out. Because you put out some great content. You help a lot of people produce some great shows,
Mm.
and you do this because out of the love of what you for the people. You have it because you want to help as many people possible, and that's my goal is to serve others and be able to help others achieve things that might have taken me a little bit longer because I didn't have anyone to help me along the way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. That's what I think. That's why we feel that heart to help, right? Because usually we end up trying to give people something that we didn't have, right? So absolutely, like I know definitely when I was even thinking about the creation story behind my platform, it was because I didn't have anyone. Okay, I didn't know I had people. Like I didn't know where those people were, right? There were resources, but I didn't know where to find them. I didn't know how to, people can tell me how to negotiate the music business and how to be a freelance musician. And then how do I balance, being in church, but also doing this? And then how do I balance being a podcaster and then a producer of a podcast and still trying to podcast? And it's like, that's why Podfest was so amazing. Cause it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm around people that actually get this and I can talk to them and I say a question. They actually know what I'm talking about. So if you don't know where those people are, it's lonely. And I heard another friend of mine who's a graphic artist, great friend of mine, say those words. He's like, man, this is a lonely existence. And I was like, thank God that I'm not the only one that feels that way.
But
You know?
it's when you get around other creators that you realize that you're not alone. Like
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
when I first started, and I was just me doing everything, editing, learning as much as possible, because I didn't know anybody in the field. And
Yeah.
it's when you start building those connections and start networking with people and start going to events like Podfest, and you start building those relationships, is when you realize, okay, I'm not alone at this. There are people that I'm able to sit down and talk to and pick their brains and learn from them, because this is a learning process. All this is learning. I'm learning every day.
Yeah.
Every time I sit down with one of my guests, I'm learning something from them. And hopefully I'm able to share something with my audience where the guest provides something that maybe someone in my audience might have to hear.
That's where I feel like the power of it is the conversations, right? And I mean, look, we're both in podcasting. We're kind of like, preaching to the choir now if you're a content creator.
Yeah.
But I think there is this kind of feeling like there's going to be saturation at some point, like, oh, well, there's too many of us, or everything's been said, everything's been shared. There's been so many like TikToks and this minute that it's going to be the same thing over and over again, which is, I mean, just look at like, let's just go to another industry. Let's look at TV. Like,
Yeah.
really think they're going to run out of TV shows? I mean, every time you turn around, there's another Netflix, there's another Hulu, and there's people just creating all this video content, right? All the time. And they didn't run out. We haven't run out of books. We haven't run out of any of this stuff, right?
No.
We're going to run out of conversations or run out of issues that people need to hear about. Like, it's just not gonna happen. There'll be some people that'll burn out because they don't really have a heart for it. But I had a podcast with one young, not an actress from Hungary, sorry, Hungarian, wow, from Hungary, and she said it really well. She said, if you're trying to take, it's going to burn you out, but if you're trying to give, you won't be able to live without it. I love the way she said it because it's true. Like, if you're trying to give to this world, if you're trying to give with your content, if you're trying to give with your teaching, if you're trying to give even with your entertainment, if you're trying to give, it will feed you. You refreshed. You know, I have there's a phrase in the Bible that he that waters will be watered, right? Like, it's give and you shall receive. It's just
Yeah.
it's universal. We all know it, but yet when you're doing it, sometimes you forget. Like, it's okay to get a little tired. It's okay to be, a little like frustrated. But you're right. Somebody out there is going to hear what you have to share. Someone needs to hear that next conversation. Someone needs to see you hit that play button. And yeah, it's what keeps you going.
And you hit something right on the head with people are gonna burn themselves out, and it's the ones that continue to do it to continue. Because at first, when I first started, I didn't have a clue. I didn't like when I would try to get guests. I didn't know anything, and people turned me down. I got plenty of no's.
Yeah.
I wasn't big enough. But then as long once I started being more consistent with it and started learning more things, started learning about thumbnails, learning about SEOs, learning about descriptions, learning about putting titles on your episodes. These are things I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me quite a few episodes to learn and start implementing this stuff. And then once I started doing that and people started finding out, okay, this is what this episode about. So numbers started growing. People started tuning in. And then yeses, no's turned into yes.
Yeah.
And then it turned into certain people that I didn't expect reach out to me and ask me to be on my podcast. And that was like, okay, all right. So I'm doing something good. And to be able to do that. And there was times I took a break because you don't want to burn yourself out. There's times where oh my God, from 2020, from March 2020 to last year of probably November.
Okay.
I went crazy recording, and I didn't start really doing video until August, September of last year. Prior to that, it was strictly audio. So from maybe when I started podcasting to I transitioned to video, I was probably recording 5-6 days a week, maybe 2-3 episodes a day.
Wow.
And I have so much.
That's hardcore, man.
I have so much audio content that I have to go back and start actually putting them out on my audio side. But now that I do the video, I get audio from StreamYard as well. So I get to put those down on my audio pod. So being able to do the video and get another piece of content that I didn't have, and now I'm able to share the video aspect of it as well. It's helped me because now I'm reaching a different audience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the key, is like you said, number one, the whole repurposing thing, and people, again, it's one of those buzzwords, right? But you can only do so much, and you were killing it with that kind of pace, man. That made me tired just hearing it. But being able to take what you have in one form and then transfer, and we're different, right? People are different. I just heard, even on my own podcast, I just did a email and I didn't hear, but I just watched the results, right? So I put I'm taking a break, to be honest with you, really right here in this segment between Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to maybe let a week go by so I can like recharge and make sure I got my guests in order. And I'm like, I did like a little 5-minute clip just from my iPhone. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have time to get in the studio. I'm up here at my folks' house. I'm literally here at my hometown. I was gonna tell you that even my podcast started literally over in the garage, like right across from me, with a little Tascam beat up thing and probably a mic just like this. So I'm literally like coming back to the scene of the crime where my podcast started back in 2016. But yeah, man, I put out this little iPhone recording. Hey, guys, just want to leave a little inspirational message. I'm going to take a break. See you guys in 2023. Then I put it on my email. Now, one person hit the audio. One person clicked on the audio. The rest all clicked the video. And I was like, why do I keep forgetting that some people just want to see me?
Yeah.
Some people do want the video. That's just the way they consume content. But then others are going to always be like with the earbuds, and this is just the way they consume it. That's just the way they're built. And so you got to show up the way that people want you to show up. You can't show up the way you want to show up because, convenience, or, hey, I don't want to be on camera, or, hey, like you have to like kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone to serve the people that you want to serve. And yeah, some people are text, man. There's some people still reading blogs. And I realize that some of my biggest content things are still blogs that were written like 2010, 2015, 2016, right? Still getting traffic. I didn't think it was that important when I wrote it. I thought it was just kind of like a throwaway, but it turns out, like you just mentioned, the SEO piece. Turns out Google still likes it when you have content and it stays, that it's sticky, and people are still, those are still my number one things, not the podcast, it's those blog posts, and some people will still read it, right? So it's just showing up for your audience, or showing up the people you serve the way they need to be served, treat them the way that they want to be treated. And that's really why I feel like it's about serving others versus like just doing it for yourself.
Absolutely. I've come to realize that is so my tickets for this year's Pod Fest, right?
Yeah.
Alex Sanfilippo took care of me and Poppy's tickets this year.
Wow. Hey, okay, I got to tell you, look, it's a Alex. We got to give Alex a huge shout out, because Alex and Alicia also took care of Leah, because I saw a note and I said, thank God that I have tickets based on my production job. So my production, my church that I do the podcast with, they took care of my ticket for my side. But then I'm like, well, I would love Leah to come again. It would be weird not bringing her back, right? You always be looking at me funny if I didn't come with my better half. And so I'm like, honey, you got to come back. But like, it's a business expense, right? So I just said, hey, and she got to meet Alex and Alicia last year.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, you guys, I would love to have my wife back. And sure enough, so now, that's another group, another person that has built a community. He built a community based on authenticity and serving. That's what Pop Pros is about.
And the reason he got me the tickets is because he's like, I see what you're doing. He says, you're always promoting Pod Match. You're always shouting out the guests. You always, whatever you're doing, he says, you're using the system, and you're promoting, you're growing every time. He says, I want to reward. He says, yo, I want to hook you up, man. There's 2 tickets for you, because I see you working hard. I see what you're doing. He just wanted to let me know he sees me. He wanted to acknowledge that what I was doing, and he was like, you're doing some great things, brother. Keep doing it.
How good does that feel, man?
Oh, he says, let me bless you with this. And you can't turn a blessing away.
You
cannot turn a blessing away. And so I'm like, bro, here you go. Here's the information you need, and I'm not gonna say no. And it's now, like we're getting the room situated and stuff like that, but we're excited to go back.
Man, it's gonna be incredible. And I'm glad, to be honest with you. I know it sounded weird for some people to come around just 6 months later, but I'm glad they're doing it in the coolest part, like right down here. I know it's not like it is now. I know Florida always gets a bad rap. We talk about it's cold, and it's like 60 degrees, and everybody else is like minus 30. But look, for us it's cold, but it's gonna be warm for everybody else. Probably in the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? Just like maybe even warmer by the time we get to January. And it's just gonna be great to have this community again. That's the thing. And you mentioned even back. When you mentioned about starting, not knowing about SEO, not knowing about titles and everything. And I just thought about Chris Krementos and his whole Start Ugly book. And like, that's what it's about. Like, I'm even right now putting up some promotions for my our next challenge that'll be in January. And bro, I just went on Canva, and part of me was like, oh, I don't want to push this out yet. I've done this challenge before, but I want to refresh the graphics. I want to make it look all pretty, blah, blah, blah. And then the other part of me said, man, just put it up. Like, no one else is going to click on this more because it's got a prettier font. Like,
Yeah.
either they want it or they don't. Now, it could be like, you know, a couple of people that will say, oh, but the people that really want this are not going to pick it based on the color scheme.
Yeah.
It just needs to be professional and look good enough. But start ugly, start with what you have. So that's what Chris is all about. And that's why I think, again, PodFest is so amazing. It's because it attracts people like us who are just looking to get started, who are looking to help. And we're not all into the bells and whistles to just impress people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what we're about. We're about trying to actually help people. And that means sometimes you just got to go out there, show up like you did last year. Just show up and,
Yeah.
and look what happens. You got the connection with Alex. You got this because you got blessed. You got Poppy. You know what I mean? Like, it grows because action begets action.
And no, it was an amazing experience. It helped Poppy as far as because he had just released his book earlier in the year.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
And so being able to actually speak to authors and speak to publishers and all that, and they gave him tips. They gave like, hey, maybe you want to switch the cover around, maybe you want to do this, and he actually went home and started working on these, and he re-released the book. He changed the cover. He said, all right, he listened to what they told him.
Yeah, listen to the advice.
That's and he's like, yo, he was like, yo, when is this gonna happen again? When are we doing this again? And so now we're gonna drive down because I have equipment that we want to drive we want to bring because we want to do live shows from the event. So yeah, we've got so many exciting, because from there we started our own show where we do a weekly show on another network on BS3 network. Big shout out to Ben. He's actually in the chat. We have the Poppy J and Wise El Jefe show that we do every Friday night on the BS3 network. And so just these connections and all this networking has opened up so many different opportunities for us. It's led me to go into other realms, wanting to go into coaching, wanting to do all these other things. And it started because I finally decided to press record. Basically.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Just Nike gets a lot of that people think it's cliche now, just do it. But that was not, I believe, it wasn't even their first phrase, right? Like when Nike was first coming out, and you got this guy, Phil Knight, talking about shoes and running around, and, you know, he's trying to sell shoes to like all the track coaches. Like, it wasn't even basketball back then. It was track. It was, you know what I mean? And so now we think of Nike as Air Jordan and just do it. But even he had to just say, okay, I don't have the marketing plan just yet, but I believe in this product, and I believe I can make the best running athletic shoe in the world. And we're going to go out and do it. And now we all say that same phrase.
Yes, just do it.
Just Absolutely. Do it from someone who just did it, even though just do it was not in it wasn't even in his radar. Like, he didn't say, I'm going to invent just do it. You know what I mean? He did it. Yeah. And then we came up with just do it.
And that's what it takes. And that's what it took. It took for me to really step out of my comfort zone and finally decide just to press record. And Poppy was like, no, we can't release it. Because it wasn't that long. It was probably like 5-6 minutes. And he's like, no, we can't release it. We need it to sound, we need to work on it. We need to sound much better. I said, nah, this way people are going to realize the growth. They see where we started at,
the process
to where we're at now. And they can tell, hey, these guys have been working hard. The sound that they had at this point to the sound that they have now, it shows the maturity and the growth and the development of them, because let's be honest, the only way you're gonna improve is by actually doing it.
Yep.
I had a guest on, she's strictly audio, and she goes, oh man, I commend you for doing video. I couldn't do video. I'm not ready. I'm waiting until it's perfect. I says, then you're never gonna go.
Yep.
You're never gonna do it. He says, unless you go out and try and fail, you're not gonna learn anything. By you just waiting until you're perfect, then you're never gonna get. I'm gonna tell you right now that is nothing perfect. You're not gonna get anything perfect.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to
Exactly.
learn from your mistakes, learn from all these. Because even to this day, I still learn. I still make mistakes. I might have the wrong setup. Like I might think that I have the right hookup audio wise, and it's the Black Magic running instead of my Roadcaster. But I hear myself fine, but I'm not realizing that everybody else isn't hearing me the correct way.
Yeah, yeah. It's happened to all of us, man. It happened to me just now when I was starting to set up. And I think one of my I remember one of my most devastating moments was one of I think back when I had a co-host for the God and Gig show, and she had set up a nice interview with a radio personality who we both know was really famous down here in Miami. And she came on, and the audio, for whatever reason, internet, I don't know if it was us, just could not hear a word she was saying. It was choppy. It was just it killed me, man. It killed me. And sure enough, like it was just turned out to be unusable. And it was where I thought I had failed. It was like this was a failure, right? It's you can't because this episode did not work out. It made me feel like I should just like give up on the whole thing because this was at that time the biggest guest we had, right?
Wow.
Now, just imagine if I had given up because I felt like it wasn't perfect and it had been proven not to be perfect, and I'd make the biggest mistake ever. And then I wouldn't have been even talking to you right now because there would not be a Got a Gig show. There would not be a podcast continually because I think that was on our first year. Now it's been 5 years. That might have been episode 20. Now we're on episode 213,
Wow.
214. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's crazy to think of the feelings you have when you're talking about that perfectionism, but perfectionism is truly the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
You can't have perfectionism and progress. You're going to have one or the other. But if you have perfectionism, no progress. You have progress, can't have perfectionism. Like they're literally oil and water. They can't exist in the same space. So yeah, man, I feel like you said it right there where we as creators and people, just people, talk about 2023. How many people are going to start their 2023 goals and they're going to quit? Why? Because they want it perfect. They're going to quit by August, by January 22nd, because it wasn't perfect. Meanwhile, someone else is going to make all the mistakes, but keep going. And they're the people that will be, I don't know, whatever your name, richer, skinnier, whatever your goal is, right? But it's all about that endurance and not trying. Yeah, perfectionism. And by the way, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So let me not point the finger.
He says,
there are plenty of times that I have erased everything. I'm the guy that text, erase, no, text it, erase. Like I'm that guy. I'm that guy that won't send that text for like another 10 minutes until I say it just right. So I can't talk to other people. I'm working on that perfectionism thing too. But it's something you're, like you said, man, we have to overcome.
And believe me, it's because I when I first started, I was like, I will record. Now let me delete it. I'm record. I'm gonna delete it. I recorded and delete it. And it was just that one time. Finally, I was like, you know what? I was just sitting here talking to Poppy, and it was funny because I didn't even have the proper setup. I didn't have the phone because I was talking to him on the phone, and I didn't have the proper jacks that went into the mixer. So I held the phone up to the mic and had him speak into the mic through the phone.
Yeah,
and that's how we recorded the first episode. Until eventually I learned how to get the proper wiring into the mixer, and then have the audio go through the mixer and all that. So it was a learning process. But it was just the fact that I finally recorded and released it is what got me going. It's like it kind of like broke the ice for me. It was like, okay, I can do this. I can record. And so it went from 5 minutes, 7 minutes to 10 minutes. And with each episode, my confidence grew. So the timing grew. And so when I switched it to conversation podcast, to having more guests on and talking to guests, that's when I really was like, okay, I love this. This is fun.
Yeah.
I'm learning, and I'm having great conversation. I enjoy this.
Yeah, we could stick with
I could continue to do this if I'm able to continue to learn. And it was funny because at one point I felt kind of selfish, and I guess was like, "There's nothing selfish about what you wanted to do." He says, "About what you're doing." He says, "You're learning from your podcast. That's awesome, but you're also sharing it with your audience,
right?"
So there's nothing selfish about it. You're just that's more self-love than anything else because you're wanting to grow and develop, and these conversations are nurturing that.
That's a great perspective. I love that because just because something feeds you and makes you feel good does not mean it's necessarily selfish.
Yeah.
It is the byproduct, right? It's the byproduct. The happiness and the joy you feel is a byproduct of you wanting to serve others. And you, like you said, like again, kind of go back to that thing where giving you shall receive. Like you can't give out what you're trying to do and try to improve just for the sake of yourself, because as you improve, you're going to improve what you're doing for other people, right? So
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you are healthy. You got to make sure that you're thinking straight. Like that's a whole, people say that self-care thing, right? But I got to be my best self. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You got to love yourself so that you have even something to give. And there was something you said earlier I was going to come back to, which is starting and making sure you start. And what happens if you don't, if you hit record and things mess up and people kind of judge you or whatever. I have this book, a free book on Amazon called Break Through the Block. It's really just kind of like a large blog post that I kind of put and created to an ebook. And my very first step of what happens when you have that kind of, when you get stuck and your inspiration's gone and you don't want to try anymore and you just want to give up and you feel like there's nothing to get up for or try create. I use this phrase called "so what if." So people say, what if it goes wrong? What if it breaks? What if this person doesn't like it? What if this person doesn't like, it's all these what ifs that we do with the worries that what happens if the thing doesn't work, right? If it doesn't go
Yeah.
perfect. Then I just put the word so in front of it, man. So what? So what if it happens? So what if it? It's kind of like the did you die thing, right?
Yeah.
So what if the person doesn't like it? So what if you use the microphone on the phone? So what if someone thinks it's not quite good with quality? You might lose a few people at the beginning, but then you could gain 10 people the next time when you do it better. And you always got to weigh the opportunity cost. What do you lose versus what do you gain? Yeah, you lost a little bit of pride, but you gained a lot of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So that key of saying, so what if something goes wrong? Like it's just like, I love the way you flipped that perspective earlier, of thinking about it's self-love, it's self-care, but
Yeah.
it's not selfish. It's
not.
selfless.
But that's that was just the thought that I had, and that's what probably a lot of people think. It's like, oh man, is it selfish of me to want to nurture myself or better myself? Because it's that mentality where you think that people are going to judge you because you're trying to improve yourself.
Exactly. It's that instant judge thing.
Yeah. Where you feel like, oh, you think you're better than me because you're out here podcasting, or you think you're better than me because you're out here learning stuff. But you get that in your head, like, man, I don't want people to judge. But then I was like, man, screw that. I gotta do this for me.
Mhm.
I gotta be able to. This is what I love to do. This is what makes me happy. And so, hey, I'm gonna make mistakes.
Yep.
I'm gonna improve and learn from them. I started with a $160 Behringer podcast studio from Amazon, and I purchased it in 2019, and I had it here, and I would mess around with it. I didn't, like I said, I would record, delete, record, delete, record, and then when I got furloughed from work, and I finally was like, you know what, here you go, let me just start recording, and I started really loving it, and started realizing that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The money that they gave me for being furloughed from work, instead of spending it on clothing or spending it on Amazon or whatever, just stuff, I started investing in courses. I started investing in better equipment. I got me the Rodecaster Pro, got me a camera to help with the video aspect of it all, got me just different tools to help improve my sound, improve my video, because I was like, if I'm going to seriously do this, I have to give people the best quality possible, because they're giving me something very precious, which is their time.
Time for sure.
So I want to give them the best quality possible. I want to be able to give them something that, hey, you can see the growth. You can see where he was at, and look at him now. Look at his sound quality. Look at his production quality. I work on that because, again, I know what is time is precious. I
Yeah.
know how precious it is. How precious it is. Precious it
Pressure.
is. Try to say that very fast.
I know,
But
right? But I love what you say there. And it reminded me of something that I love what you said about investing. Like once you start, right, you start with what you have, right? You
yeah,
start with the small budget, whatever you can afford, you just do it. But when you said the word, it really rang in my head. Something in my book, my God and Gigs book, and it's also part of my complete creative game plan, which is part of my whole membership that I'm starting to build and really kind of like share it more. And I got to remind myself that hey, these are the principles that you use. These are the principles that everybody that's successful use. And one of them, it goes the whole anagram is service. So it starts with staying connected to yourself, and then establishing your priorities, respecting your business, visualizing your goals. But then I is invest in yourself. And you got to invest in yourself in order to have any chance of investing in others. So you invested in your equipment, right? You start investing in your courses is a big one, man.
yeah,
Education, right?
yeah.
Like people who actually want to be better are always willing to give something to people who are better than them. Like I'm going to give money to learn from those who are better than me. And that is not like any slight. And like you said, even with people who are like anyone that's like in your circle that's like downing you for learning, yeah, get them out of your
They're not
circle.
supposed to. Yeah, they're not in the
Yeah,
right.
they don't
You're not
pay
in the right
attention.
circle.
They're not in the right circle.
No.
So no, I love that, man. And yeah, clearly it's all about wanting to better yourself. And that's why we surround ourselves. That's why we go to conferences. That's why we go to classes. That's why I'm not only am I anytime that, I've heard this said many times that if you're a coach without a coach, you're not a coach. Right. So I have a coach. I have mentors that I'm following. I'm part of memberships. I can't sell a membership and talk about sharing with people if I'm not doing what I practice, what I preach, right?
Yeah.
So I'm literally look. I'll be honest with you. There's actually what happened with my membership that I'm a part of. I follow. I wanted to jump up a tier and I missed, so I'm still trying to get up on the next tier of that coaching program.
Yeah.
Because I know how valuable it is. I'm like, man, I don't want to be stuck here on level 1. I want to get to level 5 of this coaching program because I know if I invest in that, I know it's going to bring back into my life.
Because Denzel Washington is these examples. Denzel Washington has a coach.
Yeah, man, the best athletes in the world, man. Michael Jordan had a coach. Yeah. Like, how do we think as whatever level we're at that somehow a Serena Williams, a Tiger Woods, if they could do it without a coach, they would have done it. And clearly, they all hire people who technically, here's the coolest thing, that coach cannot do. Serena's coach cannot do what Serena does, right? Michael Jordan's coach could not dunk. Like, let's just be honest, right? These coaches could not physically do the thing that the athlete does, but they can see and point out the things that the athlete couldn't do. So we shouldn't even be looking for people who can do what we do better. We should look for people who can see what we do and point out the flaws. And that's a whole different mentality than just looking for people who are better than you at the thing. I want someone with better perspective than me. I want someone that sees things that I don't see. I don't care if he doesn't play piano. I don't care if he does a podcast. He obviously need to have some information about it, right? But what I really value is the perspective, is how he can see or she can see what I don't see in myself and say, hey, let's flip that around. Hey, you ever thought about this? That has nothing to do with like, being like the guru on the mountain, right? Yeah. They don't need to have all the answers. They just need to have something that I can listen to. So yeah, man, that's a huge one. I'm big into 100% into supporting people who are looking for education. And I'm trying to be one of those people, but I can only be that person if I am, again, practicing what I preach,
Yeah. It is. It's for me, again, like I said, I'm taking courses. I'm still learning. But it's leading me to the point where now I know that's where I want to go into coaching. It's shown me, it's opened the opportunity for me to go into coaching for other people actually to reach out and say, hey, have you ever considered going into coaching?
That's cool.
Have you considered doing coaching? Because we think you have what it takes to coach. And it was funny because we hadn't had the people that reached out to me, we hadn't had any of that conversation. It was just, they're like, yo, I think you should coach. I think you should go into coaching. here's somebody you might want to talk to. And so
Isn't
it's
that
it
isn't that interesting that people see something in you that you didn't necessarily even see in yourself necessarily? Because I don't know if you were thinking of coaching before they said it.
no, I was, but it
Okay,
just validated for me.
got
It
it.
kind of just validated for me, just hearing it from someone else, because you always get that doubt, like, am I good enough?
Am I good enough? Yeah, imposter syndrome. Yep.
Am I good enough to do this? Is who's going to want to listen to me? Like, I don't. It's not having that confidence in yourself. And so
Yep.
when you hear it from other people, especially people you take what they say very personal, where you take it where like their opinion matters, where if they say something like, this person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. You wait. You give them extra weight, which sometimes can throw us off,
Yeah.
right? But the validation should come from people who, like you just said, see something that that echoes what you see, and then if you give them that kind of weight, then you got to make sure that you back it up.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, okay, you saw this in me. Now I have to like validate it for myself. I can't keep waiting for more validation. Now, like you said before, now you got to take action.
Mhm.
Now you actually have to step into the role. I say this a lot, and I borrowed it from some other authors that, you have to call yourself the thing you are before you are the thing. Like if I'm going to be an artist, I got to say I'm an artist and then start acting like an artist. I can't wait till I've got 100 albums and then say I'm an artist, right? It's got to start with me saying, okay, this is what I'm going to operate in, the identity I want to operate in. And then I'm going to start working in that capacity. So you're coaching before you're coaching. Then you start to put your sign up, right? And then you actually start to collect whatever and start your business or name it, whatever it is. You're already doing it before the sign goes up on the billboard.
Yeah.
But you have to internally, you have to say, this is what I am, is what I'm going to start doing. And like you said, people recognize it. And I always like to say professionals recognize professionals, right? They say real recognize real.
Yeah.
Coaches recognize coaches, like people say, hey, I see what you're doing. And you may, like you said, they may see something in you that you don't quite validate, but you're just thinking about it. And then they help you get over the hump and say, no. I do this and I see you and you are capable. And then you just got to take action and do it.
And I've spoken to quite a few coaches during the podcast, and at the end of the conversation, and a lot of them go like, have you seriously considered going into coaching? And we hadn't discussed it during the show or whatsoever. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, dude, you really need to go to coaching. Like, seriously, like, and I'm like, okay.
So now I got to put it on you, man. Cause now, so is it in the business plan for 2023? Is it?
Yes,
already?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, I've taken courses.
I want to encourage you too.
I believe me. Just keep doing what you're doing. That inspires me. Like I check out the shows, man. I check out what you're doing.
Man.
I'm saying I check because I know what you're putting out there. I know the content that you're putting out there, and I know it's content that I'm gonna be able to learn from. I know it's something like there's a message in there for me somewhere, and so I'll listen to your shows and I enjoy it because again, it's positive content. It's content that I'm like, oh man, my brother's doing some positive things, some great things, and just to like meet you and Leah and hang out with you guys and really get to know y'all personally.
Yeah.
And then see you do your thing live or on whatever you platforms you release it on. It's just like, I know that dude.
Yeah, well, see, that's the key. The awesome thing about that, my brother, is when you are authentic, you don't have to. I said this a lot of times to my wife. Let's talk about marriage for a second. It's hilarious. I told my wife, look, the reason I'm telling the truth is because I can't remember what my lie was. Like, I can't handle it. So I'm just gonna tell you what I said to the other person. And if I can't talk behind someone else's back because I can't remember what I said behind, so I'm just gonna tell everybody the same thing, even if it's like TMI, because it's just too much work to try to be two different people. It's too much work to try to be something that you're not, right? And I've done that. Again, I'm just being very transparent. I have tried to be two different people, try to be one face here, one face there, have the holy roller Allen here and the whole, you know what I mean? Like I've been in all of that, done it all, bought the t-shirt and then brought it back. So I know what it feels like to try to change that face and try to change it up for other people. And it's not fun. And it hurts and it gets tiring and taxing, and it just rips your soul out every time you realize that, man, I'm not being real. So when you say that to me, it means like, oh, I've dropped the pretense of trying to be something different on camera than I am outside of on the street, or talking to my neighbor, or talking to my wife, or whatever. Like, look, I'm 48 now, and I'm just like, look, I'm too old for this. I'm too old to be trying to be something other than the Alan. I got however many years the Lord gives me longer to be Alan. Ain't got no more time to be nobody else. Yep. Because I only got it took me this long to figure out who this dude is. So I might as well work on being this dude even better, whether it's in front of a camera, like you said, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm performing, whether I'm ministering, wherever I'm at. It's like, okay, there's no other person that God gave me to be but me. I have got to lean into that. And even when I know I'm being the most, I still have to lean into it, because that's what I've got to offer, such as I have, that I give. So I love that, man. I appreciate that compliment. It means a lot, again, because it is hard fought. That peace of mind is hard fought. There's a lot of battles that went behind all that you see Lee and I, and anybody that you see that's at peace, trust me, there's been a battle. Yeah. There's no peace without a battle. There's an internal battle we are all going through to kind of show up and be and just be able to smile sometimes. It's like, man, you don't know what that person went through just to get where they're standing. So I always give a lot of grace, but I appreciate that, brother. It means a heck of a lot. You don't know how much that means to me.
Oh man, bro, it's easy to say it because it's true. I realize that I'm able to be myself when I'm on my podcast. I don't act any other way but myself. Like you said, I just try to be the best me possible, and love me or don't. That's just
what you see is what you get.
Yeah, it sounds like a you problem.
It sounds like a you problem. Yep. And if you look at me and I'm not the problem, then look around and they ain't the problem, then you are hilarious.
So to be able to just be myself, and people realize that you're yourself. People actually enjoy it when you're able to be yourself.
Oh yeah, it gives them permission to be themselves. Yeah. It lowers that expectation where we got to, again, try to be fake and impress people. And that's one of the things, again, I know my platform was me learning how to be myself. Like, okay, yes, I do. Yes, I'm always going to be about ministry and church and God. Yes, I'm always also going to be a musician and a performer and a creative. And it's like, I even put that in my Facebook group today. Like, everybody in my world, including you, we all have an and. None of us are just or. We all got an and. You're a podcaster and this, and a teacher and a coach and this, right? I'm a musician and a podcaster and a dad and a husband. And like, there's so many ands. We got to embrace the ands.
Yeah.
Because we're not just one thing all the time. But once you more embrace the and of your life, like this, you have all these ands. It's like, okay, hey, that's cool. Because all the ands add up to something greater than the sum of its parts. And I think all of us got to be better at that, at just being honest and authentic and say, yeah, I got some issues and I got something to share, it's okay. So yeah, man, it's all of us being authentic more and more. It's gonna make the world a better place the more we do that.
It is. And honestly, man, Podfest changed me a lot because of the authenticity, because of the people there. You could feel that these are people who were really serious about what they were talking about, and they were being themselves. Everybody was so friendly. Everybody was so embracing. Everybody was just there to have a great time and build and learn. And it was just such an amazing feel. Like, I'm like, I need to come to this every single year. You need this to recharge your battery. You need this kind of networking and building in order to grow your podcast or in order to grow your business, because this is how you learn. These are people that you're going to speak to people there that have done it before you.
Yeah.
And they have a system that can help you out.
And I could tell you, like, even you said podcasters, but really anybody in content creation, I would highly say my son, my oldest son, graphic design, video. He does more like he's even doing resin art now. So he's a creative in lots of different ways, right? And a musician. I said, man, you got to come because he's literally there in Orlando.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how did he not, and he found out that one of his great heroes in video was there for VidFest. And he's like, how did I didn't know? I was like, look, I tried to tell you, but I honestly, I should have pushed him, right? Because of what you just said. Even if you're not there for specific classes, the community is what teaches you. Just being those networking, you and I meeting with Alex, meeting with so many other people that like, Paula, like all of us, right? Leah was just talking about Paula. Like, man, we got to connect with Paula. Like, it's like you said, it's the authenticity. And we all realizing that we're all one and the same. We have the same goals, which is to be better people and share what we have to share. And that goes beyond race, culture, creed, all these other things that divide us. And you sense it. It's like just drops. So that's what I sensed it. You sensed it. I had only been on the virtual school conferences before that moment. I've been on some of and I felt it even in the videos back in the COVID.
Yeah.
But once we got in the real, like, oh my gosh, okay, this is a community. Yeah. Once Podfest, always a Podfester. Like that. Yeah. Yeah. Just the community is amazing.
And I have a few friends that are going this year that have been podcasting that this will be the first time we link up.
Nice. You got to expand. Yeah. You got to share it. You got to expand it.
Oh yeah. We have to grow this. And I recommend anybody who asks me, should I go? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Without there's no question.
If you can afford it, yes. If you can get the ticket,
and exactly, and we pay it forward. Is it like just look for a way? Look for a way. Don't assume because of the money, because that's what happened with me at first. I was like, oh, I can't afford this or that, and God made a way through my business, and then like I said, people like Alex stepped forward. We got other people paying it forward or doing scholarships. Like, don't let this cost stop you. And I think there is the lowest tier is something where you can even get it at the beginning level. And there's even scholarships for that. So yeah,
and even in those tickets, I'm going to be honest with you, people. A lot of the most important networking you're going to do in the hallways.
Is in the hallways. It's not.
It's in the hallways.
The classes are good.
The classes are amazing. Yes,
amazing.
The classes are amazing.
But the relationships are even more valuable.
Yes, the network and the relationships you build happen in the hallway.
Yep.
It does. People, you get people bunched up in the corners talking and sharing ideas. Like we actually did a TikTok. A bunch of us creators, we got together. We did a TikTok because what's her name? I can't remember her name, but she was killing it, and she had us do this fun TikTok, and it was Poppy's first TikTok. He had never done TikTok he says, oh, you gotta do dancing and do silly stuff to be on. And we did this funny thing where we would drop the mic and we will switch. So every time we would drop the mic, somebody else would grab it and it would be a different person.
Okay, a little cipher.
Yeah, so it was cool. But it was those moments in the hall, in the lobby and all that, where we actually built some of the best relationships.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's what I remember again, how we met you. That's being some of the breakouts and the parties and things that have nothing to do with podcasting, but has everything to do with relationships. And that's really, again, like that's literally like the core values of my church is we always say like this: relationship. Like that's what I run on, man. I run on that professionally. I run it on it spiritually. I run on it in every space in God and Gigs. It's all about relationships. And that's the fuel, right? And so what I think you're feeling and what we all feel at Podfest, and of course, maybe you're listening, watching, maybe you can't, I can't get it. Well, you need a tribe like that. You need a tribe where relationships are the key element, because if money is the main force behind your relationship, it ain't gonna last. If prestige or how can I get on or I scratch my back, I scratch, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different vibe. That vibe like flips, and all of a sudden it's not about, hey, I just want to be here to be a part of the team, to be a part. I just want to be a part. I'm not looking to get, I'm looking to be a part of it. And that's, again, you just sense it. And that's why I feel, again, that people, I always say this even with the God and Gigs community. It's like, hey, if you don't want to join this group, that's cool, but find something. Like,
find yourself a group.
You can't, you need to either join it or make one.
Or create one. Yeah.
Create one. If you can't, if you can't find your people, then create one and just call them and just say, hey, okay, it might be 2 or 3 of us, but we together. And every big group always started with just 2 or 3 that just said, "Hey, we just gonna plant our flag. We're gonna
And
plant our flag."
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that I worked on this year was building communities.
Yeah,
Is building my Facebook community for my production company, having my Facebook community for my podcast. Is was building these communities and networking with people. And these are things that I didn't know until I went to Podfest and started
yeah,
learning these things. And it's like, oh, you do need a community,
yep.
but you can build one. You can build one. People eventually will start growing. You might, like you said, you might start with 3 people. Then that 3 people turn to 6 people. Then that turns to 10, 20. And you build it slowly but surely. But it's the fact that you're building it and you're much more intimate with these people compared to
Exactly.
where if you just get a big following at once, you're not really interacting with, like, the reason I go live now is because I get to interact. Is because people like Sick Diggy comes and leave comments. People like Tony come through, say hey, just share their thoughts, and that's why I go live, because now it gives the audience an opportunity to make this their show as well.
I love it. Yeah, man, the interaction. That's the cool thing about virtual when it is live, because sometimes if it's just Instagram and if it's just like follower, and you got all those millions of followers, but you're not really interacting, that's not real relationship, right?
Yeah,
But like you said, like there are people that I remember when I was doing my live stream shows during the pandemic, and we had 2 tiers. We had our lives that I did where I just played and performed with my guest, and that was the one that wasn't it was for everybody. We just did just like this, broadcast free. And then we did a VIP with the paid version where people could actually buy tickets and they could get in like the VIP room, right? They could get us to see perform. We would do stuff we would never perform anywhere else, but we would do it just for the people who did. And the core group, man, the VIPs, well, even the people that didn't just go to the VIP, just it became a community within a community. And it was like they had their own private jokes. They had their own, like we were good in there. Leo be on the chat and just, and these are people we never, like one lady was up in New York. One was like called in from Nigeria. It was crazy. But this was a community, even though we never saw their face.
Sick. He's from Norway,
There you go.
so my show is an international show.
There you
I
go. See?
every time
We're all around the world.
every time he comes on, I'm like, yeah, my show's international. Sick makes it international because he's from Norway, so it makes it
I love it.
international.
And again, it's that's what makes it that's universal. That's why it's called universal, right? That is a universal, is not bound by creed or color or national origin. We all have the same issues and we all want to like connect. That's a key thing of humankind. We all want to connect with something bigger than ourselves. And yeah, man, that's why I created my community, because I needed that community, that tribe. 5, 10, now guess what? Wow, 22, so 23. So yeah, it'll be 8 years since I first started, again, like you said, like kind of forming the Facebook group and about like really getting
Yeah,
my people and doing live events. Mine was live events before it was virtual, it was live events.
yeah,
And having those 20, 30 people in the room just chatting it up and talking and sitting up till 2 o'clock in the morning talking. And these people are still in my world 8 years later. And some of them have built bigger businesses than me. They've built bigger creative. They've gone to win Grammys. They've gone on to like have 7-figure businesses. But at the core of it, we're all just the same people. We're the same people that were hanging out outside Studio 504. You know what I mean? Like that was us.
yeah.
And so it's just amazing how, like you said, it brings everyone back to where it's all about relationships, man. This has been a great conversation, man. I love this, bro.
This is why I love my show. This is why I love doing my show, man. Is to be able to sit down and speak to people like you, and just have conversation. Just that's what we lack a lot. A lot of people lack is having quality conversations. To me, it's honestly, I don't talk to anyone unless I feel this conversation is gonna lead to us, either me or you learning something. Somebody's gotta
Oh
learn
yeah.
something
Oh
from this
yeah. Yeah. It's gotta be a
conversation.
positive. Yeah, it's gotta be a win-win for
There's got to
sure.
be somebody coming, or somebody in the audience has to learn from. So when these conversations come, I just cherish them and I love them, because by the time I'm done with them, I'm so wired. I
Yeah.
have so much
Energized.
energy. It's not like, when you turn to the time, you're like, oh, you're tired. But after a great conversation, I'm like, okay,
Oh
I,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm needing that.
It's funny how like people are introverted say, "Oh well, I'm drained after you work with people," but it
Yeah,
depends on the people, right? If you There's people that even in your family that you might be introverted, but when you're hanging with people you love, you can't get enough. You just feel like you can like just keep going and going and going. And that's kind of
Yeah.
like you said, the energy, the synergy of
Yeah.
relationships and just that common good, man. That's what I feel with you. I appreciate your spirit, man. Like, it's definitely something we got to just continue to cultivate
Of
both in,
course.
in in our in our platforms and each other. I just love what you're doing here.
Of
And it's
course, brother. Of course, man. Like I said, it was an honor to meet you and Leah. Me and Bobby appreciate you giving us the ride from Howling in the Moon.
oh yes, oh Lord. I'm sure there'll be more stories that, but what happens at Howling the Moon stays at Howling the Moon.
So yeah, but we appreciate that, man. It was a great experience. We had a great time, man. And like I said, we've built relationships that we see that these are going to turn into some lifelong friendships. So
Absolutely. Couldn't say
we're
better.
excited. But now is the time where you get to plug away, brother, man. Just let them know where they can find you, and it's your time.
Oh, well, okay. This has been number one, an amazing, amazing talk. You should be following this show already. Should be following my brother El Jefe and making sure that you are connected with everything he does. But now, if you want to connect with me, my platform is called God and Gigs. It is a membership, a platform for faith-focused creatives and musicians and artists who want to build better creative lives from the inside out. So it's all about us connecting the dots between our spiritual lives and our practical creative lives. I've had amazing Grammy award-winning and Emmy award-winning artists on my podcast, The God and Gigs Show. It's available anywhere where you get podcasts, or just go to godandgigs.com. You can also find God and Gigs on all social networks under that username, one God, G-O-D, and Gigs. And you can find me on all social networks as Alan C. Paul. And I also am a musician, so I also put out music. So I have my YouTube for my music and my performances, which again is just a joy. It's part of what I do. And I'm also, performing and ministering at a church as well. So you can kind of find out my personal side as well as my professional side as a coach and creative coach and podcaster. So, man, it's just been a pleasure to be on the show. We'd love to connect with more of you whenever you want. Drop by again, the socials, hit me with a DM or wherever you want. And we can continue to encourage each other. But appreciate your time. Oh, and I should say I do have some books as well at the God and Gigs website. Everything you can find on my books is all the God and Gigs. Just look under resources. You'll see my devotionals, books, and so on for creatives and for artists. And that's it, bro.
All right, but don't leave just yet. I'm gonna close out the show, and then me and you gonna chat a little bit off the air. All right, so it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to the BS3 network for airing us live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Big shout out to everybody in the chat: Sig Diggy, Tony, Latina, BS3. Thank you all for the support. Big shout out to the Real Wise fan, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you and appreciate you. Big shout out to my man Alan C. Paul for coming through and just having a great conversation with me. I love it. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.